Arcane, written by Neospector. Chapter 16. We'll cross that bridge. They stood before a bridge, or at least what appeared to be a bridge. It definitely looked like a bridge, but it was made out of some sort of magical energy. The individual planks flickered a transparent blue, so as you looked down, you could see the equally as blue fire in the canyon beneath it. The very dangerous fire that would destroy any living being that touched it, Yuuki thought. Oh joy.
This doesn't look right,
said Liuva.
You're telling me?
Yuuki huffed.
Can you blast over it like you did with the cliff?
Liuva hesitated.
I don't know. Maybe. If I didn't screw up badly. But even if I could, what about you and Keo? I can't exactly carry you and do my thing at the same time.
Too risky then.
Riskier than crossing the bridge?
There are magical bridges and stairs in Maple World, Keo chimed in. All perfectly safe.
Yeah,
Liuva grunted.
but none of them are built over a giant pit of instant death fire.
Well, not specifically fire, but
Don't answer that.
Yuuki sighed.
I really don't want to risk it, but it looks like the only way to head in the direction we want to go.
The trio approached the bridge.
I should go first.
Liuva offered.
I can jump out of harm's way if need be.
I can flash jump a little.
Yuuki said.
Maybe not as well as Rondo, but enough to get me out of the way if something happens.
Wait!
A new voice interrupted the impending debate. The group turned to face the source. It was a girl wearing the robes of the nameless town and carrying a rather thick book. She approached the trio slowly, holding up her free hand to demonstrate that she wasn't a threat.
You must not cross that bridge.
The newcomer exclaimed.
It's an illusion. The second you set foot on it, it will disappear, and you'll fall into the flames below.
The girl bent down and picked up a small rock and proceeded to toss the rock through the group. The rock fell through the apparent bridge to the canyon floor below. Yuuki blinked in surprise.
I had worried about that being the case, but thank you for telling us for sure.
He turned to face the newcomer and extended his hand.
I'm Yuuki, and this is Keo and Liuva.
My name is Rino.
The girl shifted her book beneath her other shoulder and shook the awaiting hand, and proceeded to do the same with the other two members of the group. She straightened, and her tone became serious.
You must never let your guard down. If you touch the flames here, your body will vanish forever.
Yuuki nodded.
So we've heard. We're looking for the spring of reflection to help Keo here regain his lost memories.
Perhaps I can help.
Rino said.
There is a safe path through. You all want to go to the spring?
Their group is exploring this place. I don't want to be a bother to them, Keo said. Yuuki was about to protest, but Keo held up a hand. If you can take me to the spring, these two can explore on their own. Rino smiled.
I have a better idea. There is a cave that leads to a safe path down the waterfall. It's a beautiful sight, and surely something you'll want to see. Normally the best way to get there is by boat, but we can get there from these cliffs.
How so?
Liuva asked.
By flying.
Rino grinned.
Flying on the backs of flame birds.
Flame birds?
There was a screech, and Rino pointed up. Above them flew one of the birds Liuva had spotted earlier.
They really are gentle creatures.
Explained Rino.
And with the right materials, you can ride them easily. If you two can gather the materials to summon the flame birds, I can take Keo directly to the spring.
Sounds like a nice deal for all of us.
Said Liuva.
Anything you want in return?
Rino shrugged.
I enjoyed the waterfalls and I like flying on the flame birds. I suppose I'm in it for the same reason you two are. To explore.
Yuuki glanced between his friends. Liuva seemed hesitant, but eagerness shone in her eyes. Keo was simply ecstatic. A perfect opportunity to regain his memories, which hopefully wouldn't blow up in his face the way the last few times had gone. And Yuuki himself wanted to see the waterfall, and not just to push Liuva off of it. The trio shared a series of looks and nods.
Sounds like a plan,
Yuuki said.
What do we need to find?
Following their agreement, the groups had split from each other, with Yuuki and Liuva moving further into the cliffs to gather materials, while Keo and Rino headed off towards the spring. Yuuki also made it a point to contact their friends down in the village to alert them to the bridge, as well as the change in plans.
So what got you so excited about Rhino's plan?
Yuuki asked as he flipped over a small rock. Rino had told them exactly what and how much she needed. Rock claws from stone urtus to form a saddle, sticky oil from flame urtus to let them stick to the birds, and a hard shell of a soulful urta to use as a horn to summon the birds.
What?
Liuva looked up from the dead tree she had been examining.
You heard me. What made you agree to her plan?
Why are you asking?
Yuuki shrugged.
Just curious.
Probably the birds then.
Liuva said as she flipped another rock.
I'm a bit of a thrill seeker. Don't tell me you've never thought about flying on a dragon or something over the canopy of Minar Forest, just once.
A little,
Yuuki said, sitting down to take a break.
I'm more excited about seeing the waterfall.
Liuva gulped.
You weren't serious about pushing me over, were you?
Maybe.
Yuuki smirked.
Really though, I just get the feeling it's going to be something impressive. Like the cherry blossoms in Mushroom Shrine or the view from Goblin Hill in Korean Folktown. I like natural wonders like that.
I get what you mean.
Liuva grinned.
Like the giant maple tree your girlfriend lives in, right?
Yeah, kinda like that.
Yuuki frowned.
Hey wait, I told you guys, she's not—
Not your girlfriend, yeah, right.
Liuva huffed.
Can't blame you for trying. After Tyr and Kaya looked up, there's no one left to make fun of.
Yuuki rolled his eyes.
Find anything yet?
Nope.
Liuva huffed.
And it's sticking me off too.
Yuuki sighed and began racking his brain for ideas. Finally, something came to him. He slapped his forehead in realization.
Of course,
He exclaimed.
Why didn't I see it?
He reached into his pocket and fished out his smartphone.
If these monsters are Urtus, they probably have Arcane Force.
He explained.
We can use the app Xenon installed to track them, instead of having to overturn every rock on the cliff.
Well, what are you waiting for?
Liuva asked.
Fire it up?
Yuuki tapped away on the device and paused. Liuva began tapping her foot in impatience.
Huh.
Yuuki mumbled under his breath.
What is it? See something?
No. Xenon added a loading animation to this thing.
Liuva's eyes narrowed.
It's a fancy bouncy mushroom.
Yuuki.
He even put a top hat on it, see?
Yuuki, I swear.
Yeah.
The warrior held the phone vertically at arm's length.
It's loaded now.
The warrior began slowly pointing the phone's camera around the landscape. Finally, he stopped.
Huh.
If this is another mushroom in a top hat, I'm throwing you over the waterfall.
No, it's...
Yuuki hesitated, then pointed at a large boulder further away from the duo.
That rock has a reading.
Something behind it?
Liuva asked.
Maybe.
Yuuki stood up, and the two of them walked towards the boulder. It was at least as tall as they were, plus another half body length, with several spikes jutting out from the pointed top. Yuuki put his phone away and unsheathed his sword, while Liuva unfolded her gauntlets, and the two immediately took either side of the boulder. Yuuki gave a silent signal, and Liuva nodded. Letting out two sharp cries, the duo leapt around the boulder to face their opponent. Thin air. The two glanced around in confusion. Liuva waved a hand through the air between them to prove it wasn't invisible. Yuuki quickly whipped out his phone again.
I don't get it. It should be right here, right?
You're the one with the magic phone, you tell me.
Yuuki huffed. He turned back to look at the boulder. His eyes were quickly drawn to a small circle inscribed on the lower portion of the boulder. He stared at the design for a while before pointing at it with all the grace of a 5-year-old.
What's that?
He asked. Liuva stared at the same design.
It's a circle,
she said matter-of-factly. Yuuki proceeded to kneel down, point his blade in front of him, and poke. This, Yuuki immediately thought, had been a bad idea. The boulder began to shake as if it were an earthquake. The dirt on the cliff around the rock began shifting, and the rock itself began sparkling lightly. It rose in height until it towered over the duo. The circle inscription glowed as the rock lifted itself on 4 glowing appendages that looked uncannily like the legs of a bug. The bottom of the rock detached from the top in a way that made it resemble a jaw. And finally, it whipped out the claws. 2 glowing blue, sharp as scissors claws, lined with spikes. Yuuki gulped.
Huh.